Welcome into the Barbecue Life. I'm Kurt Mueller, the host. We're powered by Hound Hogs BBQ Supply. Check those guys out at Hound Hogs BBQ Supply on Instagram and Facebook. They do some great work. So I want to welcome in Bert McClain. He comes to us out of Jackson, Michigan, and he is the pitmaster and owner of PB&J's BBQ. You can find him on Instagram. You can find him on Facebook, PB&J's BBQ. You can also check out his website, PB&J's BBQ co.com. Bert, welcome in, man.
How's it going, Kurt? It's a great day here in Michigan. I can tell you that.
I bet it is. It's probably in the low 40s up there. I'm just teasing.
High 60s, actually. It makes it even better.
High 60s, even better. So for our listeners, had the pleasure to cook next to Bert up in Westland, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit, at the famous Dave's All-Star Barbecue Challenge. Somehow, some way, they invited me to that. Have no idea how that happened, but I accepted it. I guess I paid off the right people. Anyway, I got lucky because I had a great neighbor in Bert. He let us hook up to his generator, and we had a big time. It was a lot of fun, even though it rained pretty much the whole day. Anyway, so Bert has a podcast too. Let's talk about that podcast real quick before we get too far into it. Because you sell barbecue, you vend barbecue for a living, right? That's what you do.
Correct. I run 5-6 days a week out of our your barbecue trailer. We go anywhere and everywhere. The podcast that I co-host with my partner Josh Hance, who runs Sweet Racks and Smoking Butts out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's called the Monday Morning Food Truck, or on Facebook it's MMFT Guys. Our goal is just to help the new people, give them any pitfalls that we've gone into, that we've seen, that have caused us to, sit on the floor and cry for a day. Basically just try to shorten the learning curve for people. There's enough money out there for people to do it, and if you have a passion for cooking, whether it be barbecue or anything else, it's an awesome experience just to be your own boss.
I love that. And that was just for our listeners. We'll have it in the show notes as well. That was MMFT, right?
Correct. Monday Morning Food Truck.
Gotcha. Now you guys go live. That's a live show, right?
Yeah, we go live every Monday morning, 10 o'clock Eastern time. You can find us on the Spreaker app. Or after it's recorded live, then we just publish it anywhere you can find your favorite podcast.
Gotcha. So definitely check that out. We'll have that in the show notes as well. Social media wise, want to make sure that our listeners know where they can find you. Instagram, Facebook. What about TikTok? Are you on TikTok yet?
I dabble, but I don't dabble enough. Facebook is PB&J's BBQ of Michigan. And then Instagram is PB&J's_BBQ.
Excellent. And for our local folks in the Augusta, Georgia area, you'll be happy to know that Bert had a Rectech on the back of that trailer in Michigan. So it's kind of cool to see a Rectech all the way up there in the great state of Michigan. And again, it was a really fun contest, a different contest than most competitors are used to. It's much different than KCBS, but it was a lot of fun. And just a great atmosphere. So anyway, let's talk about barbecue. So specifically, and this is really good timing because I'm actually kind of kicking off a little mini series here, if you will, about the business side of barbecue, right? So we're all in this because we love it. And, it's great. Like, what's the word here? It's a lot of fun. However, you have to look at it financially speaking. If you're spending $1,200 to $1,500 a weekend on a hobby, not saying you can't do that, that can get out of hand pretty quick. And so, I think for me, and I think probably for you, the competing is fun. The competing is awesome. It definitely helps you sharpen the saw. But let's face it, competition barbecue and quote unquote regular barbecue, two very different things. Very different things.
Yes.
So let's talk about that, because I say that a lot, and people are always like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" And they're probably tired of me explaining it. So in your mind, what are the differences you see between competition barbecue and regular barbecue that you sell to your customers or for catering gigs?
One is barbecue that you would not want to eat every single day. That's competition
Yep.
barbecue. You wouldn't want to eat it every single day because it's just more it's more intricate about what you do with your stuff. On the food truck, I cook eating food. Um, I call it competition quality because we are all about adding more flavor than just the traditional, platters and barbecue guys. We're more of a sandwich truck, so we take our barbecue and make weird and awesome sandwiches that people have come to love. Um, but the other thing is money. As I This week I spent about $1,000 to get ready for the whole week. Where at a competition you'd spend close to 1,500 just for meat
One.
entry fees, and just for one event that 6 judges are going to take one bite of, that you probably won't make your money back even if you do win. And
Right.
I've I've been lucky enough to win a few contests, and it's always great. Love the trophies. I think the Famous Dave's trophies we got were kind of cool. It's more of just it's a financial thing, but I think if you can figure out what I know a lot of people do is if they work in an office setting, is they offer their barbecue, their comp stuff to as for sale to their employees. They'll bring it
Yep.
in and sell it. I got 2 pounds of pork already sauced, ready to go for $30. Here you are. And that's a
Yeah.
good way for them to offset their cost.
So if I remember correctly, you started this business, PB&J started about 10 years, 2012, right?
That's when we started competing. We
Okay.
started dabbling in catering a couple years later. The actual food truck didn't start until 2021.
Gotcha. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that shift, right? Because again, a lot of guys that are cooking in our position, guys and gals, have similar aspirations, right? So how do you take your passion, how do you take your hobby, so to speak, and turn that into a profitable and sustainable business, right? Two keywords there.
Mhm.
What was that mindset like when you said, all right, you know, I'm going all in with this thing? What was some of that mindset?
You're gonna laugh. It was basically necessity.
Yeah.
So a quick backstory. Um, your podcast is called The Barbecue Life. I have been living and breathing barbecue since 2012. It has
Mhm.
literally has consumed my life for good and bad. I think there was one time that I might have lost a good job because I looked at barbecue too much and I was trying to do more research on company time when I probably wasn't supposed to. Um,
Right.
I have owned every single smoker you could possibly think of. You and I joked, some people invest in gold in their 401k. I invest in smokers.
Yep.
Um, it's so that means you have to have the passion. Whatever you do, you have to have a passion to do it. Um, it can't be your buddy down the street saying you got the best barbecue, you should start a restaurant. Um,
Right.
you have to know, you have to in your heart know it's good. And then the other thing is you have to have a great support system. So how I got started was I was supposed to go into a partnership with a good friend of mine. And long story short, I sold my toy hauler. I went and picked up this trailer that you saw me. And it was from there, it was a difference of opinion. So now I have a
Sure.
trailer. I have a mortgage. I've been in mortgages for 15 years, and the market, as some people know, just kind of dying off. So I'm like, you know what? Let's see if I can book some events. Let's see if somebody will have me. So actually, on my daughter's birthday, October 17th, I booked our first event and just went straight head on as of May of 2022 because the demand was there. Our food was good. We were nominated in our first year for best food truck in our town. Uh, didn't win, but that's fine. At least it's always good to be nominated. It's a humbling experience to have people that you see every time come back to your truck when you're set up.
Right.
And you have to be able to you have to have a passion, you have to have a support system. Luckily I've been married to the same woman for 22 years and she's put up with my stuff a lot, but she's always been my backbone. She'll be there. She's the one who said, hey, go out and do it. Quit belly aching about it. You got a trailer, just go ahead and do it.
Do it.
And
Yep.
funds were tight, so I mean I had everything for barbecue contests, so I'm like, let's figure it out. And we've upgraded our trailer pretty much every month since then. And yeah, we're rocking it this year. We're up 22% already from last year. So it's a dream come true. I work harder please plan to work harder than you ever have in your life.
Mhm.
But I believe it's also one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had.
Powerful stuff. I mean, I think you hit the nail right on the head. You got to have passion. You got to have that support system. But one thing that caught my attention, I think it's important to emphasize this, is that, you know your numbers. You know that you're up 22%. You're running this like a business. And I
Mhm.
see so many people take a hobby that could be insanely profitable and sustainable, but they don't run it like a business. And ultimately, a lot of times it fails, right? And so I think pat yourself on the back there. To know the numbers like that is rare. In my real job of financial planning and talking to business owners, very rarely do I speak with owners that know where they stand in terms of year over year, year to date, that kind of thing. So for our listeners, pay attention to that. I can't emphasize that enough. If you're going to make this jump, I encourage you to make the jump, but make sure you run it like a business. And as Bert said, you're gonna work the 18, 20-hour days. It just is what it is.
It's
Now
it's
I don't think it's like that forever, right? But
no,
initially for sure.
me and my podcast, or my co-host, we actually have differences of opinion when it comes to what we want our end games to be. He wants a fleet of trucks, where I'm okay with just one, maybe two.
Mhm.
I like to be small. I work the truck every single day. There's nobody that's going to work that truck other than me. I might have helpers, that's fine, but I want to be the face of my business.
Right.
Um, the other thing is, I think you had to be in the food truck. I think you have to be an extrovert. You have to
Yes.
be a person that is very outgoing, be wanting to communicate with everybody. I've been in sales all my life, and doing mortgages was always through the telephone. I was one of those. I'll call you up about your not your car's extended warranty. Don't worry. Um, but you put some information online. I'll call up and try to sell you a mortgage. So I've always been the guy who likes to talk to somebody. I'm also the guy who asks questions. So before I started this, I'm like, hey, I went and worked on his truck with him a couple times to make sure, hey, is this worth it for me? Am I gonna, And then he tells me that, in his first couple weeks, he was, crying on his floor because he didn't think it was going to work. And he started during
Mhm.
COVID.
Right.
I started when brisket prices were $5 a pound. And yeah, it's so much different now. Meat prices are going back up, but it's supply
They
and
are.
demand. But I mean,
Absolutely.
it's
Now,
going from comps to food truck was fun, and I still do comps every once in a while, as you saw the other day. I want to be award winning. I want to continue to be award winning, and be award winning. Got to get out there.
that's right. So you touched on branding, and I think that's an important aspect of this too. And I want our listeners, if you're watching the video, if you're watching the video on YouTube or you're watching a clip, you'll see that Bert has his own brand on his hat. So that's important to note, because if you think about this, and this was a big mindset shift for me when I realized how many other people's brands I was promoting on a daily basis. And it's not a good or bad thing. It's just I never really thought much about it. But I looked at all the stuff that I was wearing, right, all the T-shirts and all that stuff, and realized, I like to wear T-shirts. It's hot in the South. I'm not, yes, I do financial planning, but I'm not really a suit and tie kind of guy. It's just not me, right? I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to buy T-shirts anyway, why not just buy them with my own brand on it? I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
so I think that's really important from a branding aspect, and you touched on that, because I think that so many barbecue guys, whether they be competitors, whether they be food trucks, whether they be restaurant owners, they missed the boat on that. They missed the boat on marketing and branding. And one company that I think that has done it extremely well, in fact, I think they could write a book on it, would be none other than Dave's World Famous. I mean, you look at what they've done from a marketing and branding
Oh,
standpoint,
for sure.
it's phenomenal.
Mhm.
So I think that's important. Now for you, when you talk about branding, how did you work through that, right? So you went all in May of 2022, like you said.
Correct.
You went all in, you're running the food truck full time. So you're the CEO, you're the janitor, you're the
Chief
receptionist,
chief bottle
you're the
washer, everything
chief
I
bottom,
can.
the whole
Yeah, the
everything.
whole shebang.
So how do you here's the $1 million question, right? And it's a word that some people don't think the word balance exists, but how do you balance all of that, right? Branding, running the business, supplies, etc. What was that like? How did you work through that from a process standpoint?
Well, who says I have worked through that?
Fair enough.
No. So, at, you can have a balance, right? So it's more of time management. You have to have great time management. In the first year, my calendar started filling up, and I overlooked events that I was booked for, and I had to be that guy who called and canceled because I was booked somewhere else and I just didn't do it.
Right.
So I've grown. I have now gone into a routine where every morning I sit at my computer, update my Facebook page, tell everybody where I'm going to go, what any specials are going to be, um, do the banking, make sure everything's good with that. Uh, the meat's already done, so I pretty much get up at 3 and um, the meat's done for the most part. And then from there, it's stock the truck, make sure everything's in there that I need. If I need to run to the store, I'll run to the store. Everything, all the cleaning is done at night after I'm done. That's the balance. I mean, it's a schedule, and I actually have the schedule printed out in the trailer saying, hey, here's where we go. So if I ever mess up, I know where the schedule is and I can just look, okay, well, here it is. And I think that's the biggest thing is just put yourself on a schedule. You had a schedule at your day job, you know,
Yep.
this is a day job, you know, it's often more than just a day job, but yeah, put yourself on a schedule and just memorize that schedule. It takes 28 days to make a habit.
So it sounds like you've got a good mix of pop-up vending type events and catering gigs, right?
Correct. Yeah, we go anywhere and everywhere. So if there's any breweries that don't have food, we've reached out and we have a good rapport with them. They'll have us back. Try to get those each one of them once a month. Um, June is huge for catering for open houses.
Mm.
I just booked like 3 more weddings in the 4 days that you and I have talked. It's all people have come to love the food, and it's just I get humbled every single day when I see somebody that says, "Hey, we had your food and it was amazing." I'm like, "Thank you." Sometimes, I'm not an emotional person, but it just sometimes it makes you. I'm going to sound like a wuss, but sometimes it makes you want to cry and just be happy that whatever you chose to make the right decision and it's working for you. I know that's kind of off on a tangent, but
No, you're exactly right. And there's no shame in that at all. I mean, at the end of the day, it's awesome when people come up and say, hey, this is really great barbecue. You know, this is some of the best I've ever had. That's super
yeah,
cool to hear, and to your point, it's that affirmation that, okay, hey, I am going down the right path, because at the end of the day, you have to be willing to take that risk.
oh yeah,
Competing is one thing, right? You can go to a comp and you can get your teeth kicked in, and you can be incredibly vulnerable. Although on a side note, I do find it funny that a lot of competitors will, they're posting when they got, second place, first place, third place, right? But when they don't do so well, it's all of a sudden well, we didn't do very well. We're looking forward to the next comp, and you don't know where they finished, right?
so I've
So
I've done I've done that. My catchphrase is sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield.
yeah,
Today I was
that's
the
true.
windshield. We'll get them next time.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, at Famous Dave's, I was certainly the windshield, but it is
You
what it
were
is.
you were not.
Well, at least in the wild card, I was, and I'm still trying to figure out how to find my scores, which
So
that's a different topic.
for what it's worth, you can find your scores underneath that thing, that event. It says see event results. You can't see your individual breakdowns, but you can see what your scores were.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll check that out a little bit later. So, but again, just to emphasize for our listeners here, it's certainly there is some sort, you have to have conversations, you have to have open dialogue with your significant others about this. And I'm not suggesting you just haphazardly jump into this, but I am suggesting that at some point you got to just get off the couch and do it, because
That
without
should get off the
action,
pot.
yeah, get out, yeah, shit or get off the pot. Without, you can have the greatest business plan known to man and the greatest marketing plan known to man, but without any action, it's completely worthless. And so you do have to be willing to take that jump, take that leap of faith. And, I think it's when you're, it's funny when you're giving away, when you're having friends over, when you're having family over and you're cooking for them,
Yep.
it's always great, right? It's
Yep.
always great.
Best stuff I've ever had.
Yeah. But when you sell it,
Yep.
that's when the real feedback starts to come in.
Yep. And I look at feedback as a gift. I don't look at it as a good or bad. I look at it as a gift. If you're going to tell me that my food sucks, I want you to tell me my food sucks, and I want you to tell me why you think it sucks. Whether you think I don't give you enough, whether you think there wasn't enough sauce on it, whether you think there wasn't enough flavor to it. I want to know.
Mhm.
And on the flip side, I want to know why you love it. If you love it enough to drive by and yell in my window and tell me you love it, I want to know why. I want to know what made your day. Last Sunday after this contest, I had an event on Sunday, and I had a guy stop and just out of the blue grab a meal, and he sent me an email like an hour later, said, "This is exactly what I need. I had a shitty day today so far, and this made me happy." And he sent me an email and then gave me a 5-star Google review. Like, just because. Like, I
Just
mean,
because.
where can you do that other than if you're the the local bartender maybe, but that's about it. It's
Right.
that affirmation. I'm the guy who wants to see my name in lights. I'm the guy who wants to, I want to be at the top of the food chain when it comes to, where can we go for barbecue? Oh, let's go find the food truck. Let's go find PB&J's. I want to be that destination. That's why and I apologize for anybody looking at this on YouTube. My camera is being a real pain in my rear end, so you'll see me blurred, beep in and out. The logo is a license plate. It was after an antique Michigan license plate until they brought the license plate back for normal cars. But it says Barbecue Wonderland on it, and I used it because I wanted to be your destination for barbecue. So
Yep.
that's kind of you were talking about Brandon. That's kind of where it's going to go. Is I want this to be your destination. It's now on a food truck. So my slogan is best restaurants have wheels.
There you go. Now, how did the name come about? How did you get the name PB&J's?
So when I was a kid, I was such a picky eater that my parents would take me out to dinner and they would ask the waiter or waitress to make me a PB&J. And I said, when I grow up, I'm going to have a restaurant on the adult menu. I'm going to have a PB&J. And actually, one of our sandwiches is called a PB&J. It's pork, bacon, and raspberry chipotle jam. So
Wow.
I fully fledged did it, and it's one of our top sellers. We're, like I said earlier, we're a creative truck. I didn't want to be a platter truck. I didn't want to be here, come get your 2 meat, 2 sides, or whatever. I wanted somebody to be able to come to my truck and get 17 different things each, or get something different every single time. And
Right.
that's where we're at right now. Is we actually have a challenge that we're going to start up at the beginning of August called the barbecue road trip, where if you come to the truck and you actually go through the menu and go through one of everything, I'll give you a free T-shirt.
Nice.
I completed the PB&J's barbecue road trip.
Love that. And again, great for branding. It builds some excitement, and it's amazing what people will do for a free T-shirt.
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
It is.
So you talked about getting connected with these different wedding venues, and how you've already booked 3 or 4 wedding catering gigs over the last week or so.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about that from a sales side of things, from a business side of things. How did you get connected with them? Are you simply cold calling these folks? Are you taking over some samples for them? How are you getting in front of them and staying top of mind?
When you start out, realistically, a lot of it's going to be word of mouth. Last year, I did an open house for a couple, and they told me it was going to be 100 people, and I swear the whole town showed up. It was like 300 easily. From there this year, I got 4 referrals for 3 open houses and a wedding off of it. Or sorry, 4 open houses. And then from one of the open houses, I got a wedding off of it. It's word of mouth, and it's people that have, and I also give the option that if you're looking for catering, when you come to the truck, let me know you're looking for it, and I'll give you 25% off so you can at least taste something. That
There you
way,
go.
they at least give me a shot.
Yeah.
I have so many people tell me that I don't charge enough for catering, and I probably don't, but it's more of in the first few years, I knew the goal was to build the brand and to have people know me. It's not necessary to get rich. I'm doing okay, but it's about to get to know me, get to know
That's
who's
right.
who's serving you. But I'll tell you what, the people that want open houses and weddings, they don't want buffet setups anymore. There's
Hmm.
people, unless it's a really nice bougie wedding.
Right.
Um, I have not done one wedding that was not served from my barbecue trailer yet, and it's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's
People love the food truck experience, and
right.
I know it's a trailer,
It's
but I call it a food truck anyway.
fair enough. It's all the same, right? How do you now, as in terms of, and this is another question I get and something I've thought about, when you go to set up, are you charging a minimum fee to go?
Um, yeah, minimums are a touchy subject. So
Yes, they are.
in the first year, I took all the risk. I didn't charge a minimum whatsoever. This year, I am. If you're a host and you're not going to pay for your people, then you're going to have to cover X amount of dollars, whatever that may be.
Right.
I can't just go to like a local campground. Campgrounds. I went to the same campground last year that I did this year, and last year was awesome. This year sucked, and I didn't get a
Hmm.
minimum out of it. And booking it next year, maybe I'll ask for one. A
Right.
lot of people are afraid of minimums, and a lot of food truck people are afraid to ask for them. At the end of the day, it's your food, it's your time. You have
Right.
to you have to be um, confident in your role
Right.
as a private chef, basically, to cook for all these people. And if they tell you that, have them put their money where their mouth is. If they tell you there's going to be 100 people and 20 show up, well, you're out food. Especially
Right.
barbecue people, we have to cook for a certain amount. I can't just go out and make more food. I'm not a
Right.
short cook. I'm not a burger truck. I'm not a dog truck, whatever. I can't just fire up the grill again.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing. So I ask for to take the trailer out. It's a minimum of $1,000 order. If
Okay.
you my entire food truck for 4 hours, it's a $2,400 minimum because for 4 hours on a Saturday, that's pretty much what I can make for 100
Right.
people. So that's where I've gone, and I've had nobody balk at it so far.
And that's just to be clear. So it's a $2,400 minimum, assuming that it's 100 people, right?
Correct.
Now, I'm guessing that scales up or down based on that number of expected people.
No, that's our minimum to take the
Okay,
food
so
truck
it's
for
yeah,
our entire food truck menu. That to
right,
cook for 100 people. I mean, you tell me how many it's going to be there, but I'm going to cook for 100,
right,
and that's our minimum. So if you're gonna basically what we do is we run a tab. So if we go to, let's say, like a car show, right? Um, and the host wants a food truck there, and they're expecting 100 people, let's just say,
mhm,
or they just want their vendors eating or whatever. Then I'm going to say, okay, it's a $2,400 minimum. We'll run a tab. Whatever the sales are, we'll take that off the minimum and you owe the rest. If we eclipse that number, we're all set. We're all good. And
right.
most of the time they're like, yeah, that's fine. We're good with that. So I try to be as upfront with them as possible. I mean, I don't want, oh, you didn't tell me this, you didn't tell me that. I don't want that. I want everybody to be happy at the end of the day because I want them to recommend me to somebody else.
That's exactly right. And I also think, to your point, it pays to be professionally direct and upfront.
Absolutely.
Obviously, different areas of the country, there are different expectations in that respect. I know, I'm from St. Louis, you're up in Michigan. People tend to be a little bit more upfront and direct in those areas
Mhm.
versus where I live, South Carolina, Georgia, not as direct. But
Yeah.
again, there are professional ways to get your point across and be direct. I'm not suggesting you need to be a prick about it.
No,
You need to have some tact, and you need to have some
don't be
professionalism there.
don't be afraid. Don't be
Right.
afraid. Be like I said, sometimes it takes an extrovert because an extrovert typically is not afraid to tell you what they're thinking. Be
Bingo.
professional about it. This is how we work. We're not for everybody. And if you have any questions, please ask. Like I would welcome 100 questions from one person before I, you know, book a gig for somebody who doesn't ask me any, because I want
Right.
everybody to know exactly what's going on, and that's the main thing is clear communication for sure.
Exactly. Let's talk about talk about the creativity side. I know you said you're a creative truck. That is what I am striving to be, because right now we are basically what you described, which is a platter truck essentially.
Yeah.
Where did the inspiration come from? From the creativity side, is it you watching a bunch of YouTube videos, or you just playing around in the kitchen? How did that all come about?
So in 2013, I worked at a barbecue restaurant for like 9 months, just as I was the assistant pitmaster, basically the gopher. So I learned a little bit about toppings and flavors and things like that. I worked actually the line on every Sunday for brunch, just to see if it's something, if the barbecue business is something I wanted to go into. I said I wanted to have a PB&J. I made sure I tried to figure out what's the best way that I could do, pork peanut butter and jam. Does it work like that? I honestly I put that one together. We have a sandwich called the Longhorn that has garlic mayo and French's fried onions. Like you can't go wrong with like that because it tastes good with beef.
Right.
We have a Carolina pulled pork sandwich with coleslaw on top. Like if you've never had coleslaw on top of your pulled pork sandwich, it might just change your life. And
It's
if you,
amazing.
and so these things, and our most probably our most creative one is called the Elvis, and it has peanut butter on it, peanut butter
Hmm.
brisket and bacon jam, and everybody looks at it and says, "Peanut butter?" Like, yeah, I got the idea from a burger I ate at a restaurant, and if it works on a burger, it's going to work with brisket.
Right.
Why wouldn't it? So that's my problem with creativity is sometimes I can be too creative.
Hmm.
I swear if I had a sit down restaurant, I would have a Cheesecake Factory size menu. If you've ever been
Yeah.
there, we know it's like
Yep.
35 pages
Right.
because they cook everything, and that's the same thing with me is I did a brisket sloppy Joe. I did we did a luau, which had like pineapple and cream cheese and stuff like that on there. Some sold better than others, but it's just the creative juices never stop flowing because I'm like, is my menu getting too stale? You
Right.
know, I always put specials out whenever I'm set up, roadside just to see how they work. We did jalapeno poppers and they went off, without really, really well. So it took me a year to even offer ribs on them because it's like, since I'm the one doing all the cooking, it's like, do I really want to add something more that I have to cook?
Right. Yeah. Now you mentioned, you talked about like, restaurant. Is there at some point in time, is it your goal to have a brick and mortar? Or are you going to stay mobile?
Stay mobile.
Stay mobile.
Yeah, there's
What
no.
about the mobility do you like?
I can go where the people are.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wanted to be a destination, right? So I do want people to come to me, but I can't take a brick and mortar to, a city that has more population than where I'm in. If COVID, God forbid, happens again, I don't want to have to worry about that because that's the thing with food trucks is food trucks boomed because of COVID. They know because nobody could go anywhere
Yep.
and people were just setting up in their own subdivisions,
Right.
and that's still an option. My now 4-year plan is so you're sponsored by Hound Hogs Barbecue Supply, I believe.
Yes,
Um,
this show is, yes.
Yep. I want to open a brick and mortar barbecue retail shop. So I want to sell rubs, sauces, smokers, whatever. But I
Right.
want enough parking space where I can invite food trucks to park out front and utilize our products so we can do cross promotion. That's my goal. That's my now 4-year plan.
Love that. I mean, and it's no secret that there is a huge shortage of barbecue restaurants, barbecue food trucks within the, F&B industry. I mean,
Yeah.
if you, at least I've read several articles that talk about how few barbecue companies are actually out there. And to your point, food trucks really exploded during COVID. So it does present a lot of different, a lot of options, a lot of flexibility. But let's talk about the downside, right? Because there's always a downside to everything. What's the downside in your mind to strictly being a mobile truck versus having brick and mortar?
Um, you are responsible for booking where you're going.
Hmm.
So if it's a dud, that's your problem. That's your fault.
Yeah.
If it's that's really the only thing. I mean, if maintenance, I mean, my trailer's been down last year a couple times because of suspension issues. Obviously, if the trailer's down, you can't go anywhere.
Right.
I did a trailer instead of a truck because if a truck is down, like you're done for a good couple days. If a trailer's down, you typically can get that fixed pretty quick.
Right.
If your truck goes down to pull the trailer, you can easily go rent a truck somewhere to be able to pull your trailer. So
Right.
um, it's a small surface, small space. It's so it doesn't have the size of a good restaurant. You don't have that food and beverage or that beverage liquor license or anything like that. Barbecue and
Right.
beer go great hand in hand together. At that contest, Curveball Whiskey was there, and I think Tequila Company was there, and that all goes great with barbecue. So I don't
Yeah.
have that. I would love. We don't have a place in our hometown that has like a beer garden where a couple food trucks could set up for that. That's why we go to breweries. Um, but I think that's really the only thing. It's just where you go. You're responsible for your schedule. You have a brick and mortar. You're open from whatever to whatever. With a food truck, you're open actually whenever you tell somebody you're open because you're booking your events.
That's right. That's right. So, and for our listeners, you can see there's advantages, disadvantages to either side of the coin here. And I think, for most starting out, most are probably going to go the mobile route. I mean, that's the other advantage is generally speaking, your cost to
Less
start up
overhead,
an operation is way
way,
less,
way less.
right? And for me too. And you're a solo cooker. I'm effectively a solo cooker. I might have my 10-year-old son there a time or two, but for all intents and purposes, I'm a
Listen,
solo
he's
cooker as well.
we know he's the star of the show. Okay,
That's right. He's the reason. I'm the reason we got last in the wild card, but he's the reason. He actually injected the ribs, and I think he helped us take
he
third
did
there.
good.
Yeah, he did. He loves that stuff. But I think it's going back to what we talked about with the brick and mortar versus the truck or the trailer. I think the logical step, for people listening is go the mobile route because it is a lot less expensive
Yeah,
to do that, and you can build your brand, and you can also if you're I know there's a fear, right? There's a fear of leaving stability. I get that. I tend to embrace the fear, but I'm not stupid to think that everybody else views it that way. And so it's a great way to build your brand 1 or 2 days a week and also still have some financial stability. Now, if you're like me and yourself, we tend to just jump on in and figure it out, right? Not everybody's like that, of course, but I do think that's important to consider there. All right, so as we wind down, I want to camp out on a couple of key questions here, and that is, from the food truck side, from the mobile side, when someone reaches out to you, whether it be a brewery, whatever, and they say, hey, will you send us a proposal? Will you send us an estimate for blah blah blah? What are the key questions that you're asking every single time?
number one, how many people?
Yep.
Number two, is it host paid or individual paid?
Okay.
So paid by the host or paid by individuals. If it's paid by individuals, are you open to a guaranteed minimum? Date, time, address.
Right.
Realistically, that's the main questions. And then once you figure out those, then you can go into your menu. I never push the menu first. I always ask those questions first. I have learned there's many reasons why I ask the date, time, location. Last year, I booked a couple weddings that were 2 hours away, and I, for some reason, didn't even phase me that they were 2 hours away. So I would have charged a good amount more because of the time frame.
Right.
Um, so that's my shtick so far, my plan so far, and then go into the menu and then kind of figure out, hey, have you looked at this? Feel free to go to our website. You'll be able to see everything that's on there. We have a catering menu that has per person prices, a la carte prices, or per pan, and then we have here's what you need to book your event. So here's what we do, and I find that one page, and I can send it to you if you want it for your listeners or yourself, takes out all the questions that you think somebody might have. Okay, we accept a deposit on 100 parties or 100 people parties or more. We do have an automatic gratuity that we add. If it's paid by credit card, there's a 3% charge when it's due, all that. And I find out when they see that, they understand. And if they contact me after that, they're pretty good with all the questions that they might have had because that kind of answered it for them.
Right. Right. Love it. That's some actionable stuff and some great stuff to take away for our listeners and a powerful way to wind down the show. Again, we're chatting with Bert McClain, Pitmaster, owner, PB&J's Barbecue. He's based out of Jackson, Michigan. Check him out on Instagram, Facebook, PB&J's BBQ, and you can check out his website too, PBJsBBQco.com. Bert, final question. How about some parting words of wisdom for our listeners?
When you competition wise, when you think it's done, give it a half hour longer.
There it is.
Food truck wise, you're never going to be 100% ready. Jump in.
Great stuff. Thanks again, Bert, for joining us. Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, Kurt.